The basic structure for Anderssen's mate is when we have a pawn on the 7th rank, like this, and we give checkmate on the corner either with a rook or a queen, so with some major piece. For example, in this position here, white can give Anderssen's mate by playing the move rook to h8, checkmate. Now let's take a look at some other examples. In this position, it's black to move, and black here seems to have a pretty good attack with a pawn on g2. However, because his pawn on g2 is blocking a lot of his lines, he might have a tough time breaking through for white's king. However, turns out there's a queen sacrifice here that black can use. If you want to pause your video, you can take a time to think about it. Okay, so the correct move here would be queen takes h2. Now this check here forces white to take on h2 with his king. Notice that the g2 pawn here is protected by the bishop, so white can really never touch it. The point is, after the king takes on h2, black can check with rook to h5. So after rook to h5, white has two more choices. He can either pick to play king g1 and get checkmated on h1 here, or he can try the move king to h3 or g3, which follows g1 queen, and after king to f4, black can still get checkmate with the move queen to g5. So here, the fact that we had Anderssen's mate after the move king to g1 made queen takes h2 very powerful and gave black the winning advantage. Now in this position here, it's white to move, and there seems to be a lot going on in this position right now. So if we take a look, it looks like black's starting to threaten checkmate with two different ideas. First, he has the back rank mate idea with rook to d1, and after bishop g1, for example, he has some other ideas, maybe for example sacrificing here, or even playing queen c1. So this seems like it might be a problem. And the most obvious problem right now is that after queen to f1 check, queen to g2 is going to be checkmate. However, it turns out white also has his own options. First of all, white can solve the problem with this rook over here by directly taking it. The queen take the rook right now. But it turns out that this rook is not a free rook because after queen takes the rook, black can also take white's rook. And if we count the material right now, even though it seems like white can take black's rook, he's actually going to be down some material. White's down a whole rook right now, and the position seems to be better for black even if white takes. However, there's a crafty mate that white can use here. So we notice that the pawn here is on g7, which is surrounding black's king. The reason that Anderssen's mate is so effective is because the pawn surrounds so many squares in black's camp, and the king is actually left with not that many squares to work with. The point here is that the pawn on g7 is controlled, or protected by the rook on h7. So now if we play the move queen to d8 check, for example here, the king cannot take the pawn directly. The king is instead forced to take the rook on h7, and after the king does do that, white can play the move queen to h8, Anderssen's checkmate. Anderssen's mate frequently happens when the pawn here is on g7. Sometimes players will leave a pawn in front of their king to shield it against attack. However, that person should also worry about Anderssen's mate and make sure that can never happen. Whenever you can protect your pawn on g7, do so, and use that to your advantage to give checkmate later on.